Mr. Elias, thank you very much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. I wish it was under better circumstances.
Yeah, me too. I know that you've been able to see the last few minutes when I was talking about what happened in Georgia today, what's happened in Iowa over the past few days, the action that Iowa Republicans have been taking there, some of the things we've been hearing from the White House. You're a real expert on this stuff. I wanted to ask you if I got any of that wrong, or if there's any part of it that you feel like needs more or less emphasis.
No, look, I think you got it exactly right. The fact is, in Iowa, they wanted to have a successful primary by sending absentee ballot applications to every voter, and they did. And the reaction of the Republican Party was to say, well, let's not let that happen again in November. In Georgia, the Republican Secretary of State said, we want to continue to have failed elections. It worked for us last time, maybe it'll work for us again. And you saw that. But don't forget that this is not the first time we've seen Republicans with this playbook, even during this primary season. We saw 7.5-hour long lines before COVID in Texas, after there was massive poll closings. And we saw, of course, in Wisconsin, the Republicans block an effort to move the election so that it wouldn't be in literally the height of the pandemic. And they refused that. And that was to win a state judicial election. Just imagine what they'll do in November.
What is the solution here? I mean, I know that what you do with your time is that you bring lawsuits, you bring legal actions to try to whack each of these moles as it comes up in each of these states. Is that the only strategy? Do you have faith in that strategy this year? Is there anything else that could be done?
Yeah, look, there are tons of things that could be done to make this situation better. The problem is that you have Donald Trump in the White House telling Republicans at every level not to do those things. So it's very difficult to get a smooth election administration when you have Republicans in position of power being told by the President of the United States, don't let there be smooth election administration. So we ultimately wind up going to court, not as a first resort, but because the courts are there to protect voters if all else fails. And what we saw today in Georgia was all else failing. What we saw in Wisconsin was it failing. And unfortunately, we see in state after state a concerted effort on the part of Republican election officials and Republican legislatures to really not want us to have successful elections in which every eligible voter can vote and have their ballot counted and counted accurately.
Is there one state or is there a small group of states that really keep you up at night in terms of November? Obviously, every election is important and you never know what's going to be determinative. But thinking about the presidential election in particular, is there any place that you feel like needs more national attention in terms of the threat there and your expectation for how things are going to go?
Look, I think we obviously all know about the problems in Wisconsin. So that's, that shouldn't drop out of the public consciousness. There was a lot of attention on it during the primary, and that circumstance has not gotten better. In fact, conservative groups in that state are still scheming to figure out how to make voting harder there. You look at Florida, you look at North Carolina, where you have a Republican legislature still passing voting laws. You look at Arizona, where you have a very conservative attorney general and governor. And legislature. So I'm worried. I'm paid to worry about everywhere. So that's what I'm doing. That's unfortunately, where we'll be between here and November.
Mark Elias, who represents the Democratic Party on voting rights issues. Thanks for helping us understand this tonight. Come back to us in coming days as we learn more about how these states are going to be trying to do this. We really appreciate your time here.
Happy to do it anytime.